Hello, welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is, what is the date? Wednesday, of course, July 1st. How can I forget that? 2020, July 1st, which means it is Canada Day. Happy Canada Day, everybody. Although this day has proven to be kind of lame, cold and wet. For those of you who are in the US, we got down to like 57 degree. Locally, it's like 14 degrees Celsius. So yeah, it did not feel like Canada Day. It did not feel like summer. And of course, with the pandemic, there's not a lot of things going on in the great outdoors, which is honestly a little bit sad. But I did get to go out with my best friends, and we had dinner and some beer at the local pub. The pub is open, although only at half capacity. But yeah, we did get to spend some quality time together. So for that, I'm immensely glad. So it feels a little bit strange to be talking about Japanese people on Canada Day. However, it is not as far as a stretch as you may imagine, because normally on Canada Day, me and my friends would either be volunteering for various events or be enjoying ourselves checking out the entertainment here locally at a place here in Richmond called Steveston or Steveston Village. Back during the Second World War, Steveston Village was where the, I guess you can say, the internment camp for the Japanese people was here in British Columbia. So even today, Steveston Village is heavily influenced by Japanese culture. You go there, and you see a lot of Japanese people, you hear a lot of Japanese dialect, and a lot of buildings there still look like they were built by Japanese people. So, going by that connection, it is not hard to imagine why I would be thinking about Japanese people on Canada Day. Before I go into today's episode, let me get this out of the way. Personally speaking, I don't hate Japanese people, despite what they did to my people during the Second World War and also prior to Second World War, what they did to Taiwan. I have friends who are Japanese. I have an uncle who is Japanese, and I love them very much. However, as a Chinese lineage person and a Taiwanese citizen, I am, of course, a Canadian citizen as well, but I still have my Taiwanese citizenship. As a Taiwanese Chinese Canadian, I will tell you that people who go out of their way to worship Japanese culture, Japanese people, annoy the heck out of me. And I do hold their country responsible for what they allowed their soldiers to do during wartime. So yes, I do not hate uh, Japanese people today, but I don't think that highly of them either. With that out of the way, now that you guys can go into the comment section and call me a racist and tell me I'm discriminating or whatever, let's get to it. For the longest time, Chinese people refer to Japanese as Wokou, Wokou, Woco, Wokou. What did that translate to? Short pirates. Now, isn't that ironic? I mean, a lot of you probably use the term or heard of short little Chinaman. Well, when short little Chinaman refer to another race as short pirates, that you can sort of get the idea. The Chinese people thought that Japanese people were even smaller and shorter. And of course, pirate, not a very flattering term. That is because for a lot of the period of time, five, 600 years ago and older, Japanese people's role with their involvement in Chinese politics and Chinese border dispute were the occasional raids by ship along the southern coast of China. Chinese people didn't really know much about Japanese people other than these people were very annoying. They were shorter and wider and rounder than Chinese people, and they constantly tried to loot merchant ship from China. However, there have been many literatures throughout Chinese history, and even literature and proofs from the Japanese side that may suggest that Japanese people were once upon a time the Han Chinese. A quick digress here. During the Second World War, the reason Japanese people were able to take over northern China as quickly as they could was because they didn't tell people that it was an invasion. They told people, they told Chinese people that it was a reunification. They were here to liberate China and reunite with China. They claimed that they were the true Chinese. They claimed that all they were doing was coming home. And to a lot of Chinese people at that time, tired of the civil wars going on in China, tired of the starvations, the drought, and the famine, they were happy to welcome the Japanese people, who they thought were originally one of us, back into the country. And it's not until the Japanese people were allowed in that they handed the keys to the provinces over to these Japanese people. That the Chinese people suddenly realized that these were bloodthirsty, ruthless, very cruel people. They told us they were coming back to free us from civil wars. They told us they were coming back to reunite everybody. But what we got in the end was incidences like the rape of Nanjing. Anyway, going back to the original story, it was said that about 300 BC, during the dynasty of Qin in China, the Emperor Qin Su was getting old and senile, and he detailed his court minister to go look for the Fountain of Youth. And basically, the Emperor Qin said to the minister, if you don't find the Fountain of Youth, don't bother coming back. The minister, in return, told the emperor that since the Fountain of Youth belonged to the gods, he needed to bring with him 3,000 virgins, a mix of boys and girls, and assorted craftsmen and soldiers to complete this task. Obviously, being kind of senile by this time, the emperor agreed to his demand and put together this group, 3,000 virgin boys and girls and craftsmen and soldiers and huntsmen for him to be able to complete his task. And in return, the minister took his group, went across the sea to what is now known as the Japanese islands, and set up shop there, set himself up as the new king of the islands, and became the first people of Japan. Now, some of you may say that this is pure nonsense. This is just Chinese people talking nonsense, trying to degrade Japanese people. And I will admit that as Chinese people, we do have a lot of reasons and motivations to talk negatively about Japanese people. However, if you look at Japanese own culture, there is, even nowadays, a temple worshipping the god of silk, the god of farming, and the god of written language. All three is the same god for all three items. And that god turned out to be historically the Chinese minister that ran away from the emperor king. So this proves to us that the minister was real. He actually did get to Japan, and for even if he didn't become the first ruler of Japan, he made enough of an impact that he became worshipped as the god of silk, the god of writing, the god of farming. Otherwise, why would Japanese people still be worshipping him today? Another interesting little tidbit is the Japanese kimono and the Japanese samurai swords, the katana. They were not originally of Japanese design. If you look back in the etymology, in the history of these garments, the kimono, and the swords that Japanese people use, you will see that both of these items came from the Chinese Tang Dynasty. Okay, so some of you is going to say, well, maybe Japanese people visited the Tang Dynasty China and really liked what they saw there, so they started copying. That's possible. Well, okay, how about this one? Even to this day, every Japanese person, no matter what their last name, first name, family name is, every Japanese person have a Chinese word in their name. Now, if they weren't related to Chinese people, if they weren't from Chinese people, why would they be following that tradition? Why would they be putting a Chinese character or Chinese word in their name? Why would they keep up with that tradition? So these are very compelling evidence that Japanese people, at least to a large degree, believe that they have blood tie with the Chinese people as well. What makes it even more confusing is there are a lot of rumors and research that show maybe Japanese people came from Korean people instead. Now, I know a lot of Japanese people is going to really hate this one, but even as recent as 2011, there was a research that shows that genetically you can't tell a Japanese apart from a Korean. Genetically, they're exactly the same. And there was a modern uh, account in both Chinese literature and Korean literature that says the modern Japanese people came from uh, one of the Korean princesses uh, about uh, uh, about 300 AD, mating or breeding with a Japanese Aborigine person. So, what does that mean? Are Japanese people Korean or are they Chinese? I think we are quite a ways off before we can actually figure that out conclusively. But a lot of very compelling evidences definitely point toward possibility of being one or the other. But you know what is the most ironic? Is that no matter if Japanese were Chinese or were Korean, they have tried their darndest to enslave both of these countries. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toy Thursday. Again, hope you guys had a happy Canada Day. To my US audience, hope you guys have a great upcoming 4th of July. Stay safe, stay strong, and have a good night.